Powered by Go-Goat Sports and in partnership with TSN, welcome to Season 3. This is Episode 7 of the Ray Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Infinity. We're both loving our Infinity vehicles. Nothing is changing there. Check out their entire lineup, and you can do that and book your contactless test drive today at infinity.ca. Infinity, conquer life in style. Kevin Lowe, Hall of Famer Kevin Lowe, will join us in Episode 7, Ray, of the podcast coming up. We've got lots to peruse in headlines with some interesting on-ice stories, concerning off-ice stories, all of that. We'll get to it momentarily. However, I know, let's just get this out of the way. You want to discuss...
Do you have a paramedic near you?
No, but it's becoming abundantly clear that I need one, right?
Yes.
So Tuesday night, I'm doing the Ottawa-Boston game regionally on TSN. I'm in studio with Lindsay Hamilton. Noodles, Jamie McLennan is at home. And then you've got Gord and you've got Pooley in Boston doing the game. Second intermission. Stupidly, coffee is a trigger. It's a cough trigger for me. And you've been around me long enough and often enough to see those little spasms on occasion, right?
It's amazing the shade of red your head turns.
And the eyeballs just really accentuates
it's like they're
the
going to
struggle.
come out. One of them, one day they're just going to pop out. Both of them. Boing, like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
So I've had a cup of coffee, which I shouldn't have done. I don't normally do. And the building decides that they're going to flip the air conditioning on during the second period. And you've sat on that set in Studio 6 and the air blowing down on you, right?
Yeah.
And I just dried right up. So second intermission starts first block, and poor Lindsay goes to Noodles. He does his highlight flawlessly. They come to me. I'm going to do the Derek Forbert goal and how that broke down and why DJ Smith was sour because Brad Marchand got away with a penalty in the neutral zone. All of this. I start talking, and it's literally like, if you look at Brad, and I can't retrieve it. Like, so, you know, again, you've been with me on air enough where I'll do that and I'll find a way around it. Poor Lindsay is looking at me and she's like he's dying. He's dying on air. So she's like, I don't, you know, do I jump in? Do I start crying? Like, what happens here? She holds up a water bottle. And we're like 12 feet apart. Like, what am I going to do? So anyway, finally.
Well, Noodles jumped in and he did the highlight. And, and that the thing is, it takes about 15 to 20 seconds and then it passes.
Normally, this one was a bit longer than that. I just couldn't get it back. And as Noodles is doing the highlight, then I had another element to the intermission, and I couldn't do that. So I was a complete no-show, other than choking my face off.
But just think, there's nothing you could have said in that block that would have garnered more attention than almost choking on the air.
No. Is that? And I said to Lindsay afterwards, I said, we're going to get a real good indication of how many people watch Ottawa Senators games in 3, 2, 1. And what was heartwarming, Ray, was there were actual people worried about my well-being.
Yes.
They were worried. Pierre Dorian texted me, the general manager of the Senators, to see if I had expired or, you know, evidently I responded to the text immediately. So I was fine. So, anyway.
Glad you're okay, Dregs.
I appreciate that, Ray. So big week, obviously, in the National Hockey League with Hall of Fame. We've got Kevin Lowe coming up, so we'll talk to Kevin momentarily. But first, why don't we dive into the headlines presented by our good pals at Boston Pizza. Check out their fall menu with past faves and new craves. 3 yummy pizzas. Holly Dreger and I ordered the pickle pizza.
Oh, you did?
We did.
And?
Interesting. It was interesting. You know, it's one of those things where you take a bite and you're like, I don't know about this. But then you eat the slice and you go back for another slice.
What kind of pickles?
It was a dill. It was cut up in little pieces.
Yep.
So it looked like a normal pizza. It just obviously had the greenery of the pickle and the onion and everything on it. I would call it a perfect appetizer pizza, nice. Where if you cut it into thin slices, everybody gets a taste. So anyway, only available for a limited time at Boston Pizza. We're on a bit of a trend here in headlines on the Ray Dregs podcast. And that, again, because there's so much dark stuff, and there's more of it now with Bob Murray and the Anaheim Ducks out there. But there's enough of that, and we're going to talk. We're not going to avoid it. But I like to, as do you, accentuate the positive. So let's start with, okay, Mitch Marner scores a beauty on Robin Lehner and the Vegas Golden Knights, right? You have the Matthew Tkachuk between the legs goal, which
great
is
stuff. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you know this far better than I, how difficult it would be and is to execute that. Very nice. But Connor McDavid and what he did on that 1-on-4 to the New York Rangers is borderline criminal. We joke about and we try to apply, oh, that's the goal of the year, or at least a candidate for the goal of the year. How do you top that goal, Ray?
Well, you're not going to. Was so great. I mean, it looked like a Rangers team picture, and he skated right through the middle of it. It was unreal to watch his agility and just that he saw something that was like, oh yeah, I think I got a sliver of room there. And then you know what I did like after the game was he was like, yeah, that's what I'm paid for.
Oh,
I kind of like that because he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to make a great play like that. It was so good. Such a great piece of stick handling and skating. And then of course you got to finish it. Otherwise it's just a play, right? Yeah. It's got to be in the net. Otherwise it's like a really good move that went nowhere. Awesome stuff.
That stage of the game, take us back to your career. I mean, you could do things with a puck. And again, I'm not comparing you or anyone else for that matter to Connor McDavid and how he does it at full speed. But in your mind, would you have back in the day gone 1-on-4 based on where they were at? And, hey, if it's a 5-1 hockey game, yeah, maybe. You score the 6th goal, big deal. You did something that was pretty creative and nice. This was a real tight game at that point.
I would say there were two options. One would have been as if you turn and you can get to the blue line, even though there's 4 guys back. If you had somebody to your forehand side, you might have been able to just dump it off and then head into, pass it off and then go into the zone. But more likely I would have chipped it in the corner and tried to go after it. Like, seriously, I wasn't going to turn it over there.
No.
You'd have cauliflower ears from your coach by the time he'd be yelling at you from 100 feet away if you turned that over.
Al Arbor would not have let that go.
No, right? that wouldn't have been a giggle fest.
Jack Eichel finally gets traded to the Vegas Golden Knights for Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuck, a couple of draft picks, including a first. He's scheduled for the disc replacement surgery in Denver on Friday. We're recording this on Wednesday. Man, doesn't it just feel good that this saga is finally over? And now we can and analyze the trade for me. Did Buffalo get enough? Did Vegas pay too much? For me, that stuff doesn't even really matter. We can measure that in time. I'm just glad Jack is going to get this procedure, and I look forward to seeing him back on the ice and playing in the league in the next 3 to 4 months.
Oh, I was thinking yesterday Tuesday when I saw him, cranking the horn out in Vegas in the pregame. Yeah. I'm like, good for him. Like he's back out, and I'm like, man, he must be nervous because like I've had plenty of surgery. You never go in going, oh, this will great. I'm going to go in Friday. I'll be back out Saturday. And like, you're always nervous, right? Yeah. You just, the guy's cutting into your body. And, but the months and months and months of waiting, I'm sure he's relieved as well. And you only get one crack at your career. Look, he's going to lose 3/4 of this year.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be playing, and hopefully all goes well and he gets back in the lineup and we get to see, basically one of the premier centermen in the National Hockey League. And he's going to be juiced playing in that lineup in Vegas. As far as the trade itself, I mean, like anytime you trade by far the best player in the deal, you can never get enough.
No.
Like it just, you do the best you can. I mean, the Sabres were stuck in a corner with no options. And as Teddy KGB says in the game there, or Matt Damon says to Teddy KGB, I was out of options, man. You got nowhere to go and you're stuck. And so this deal seems like it could have been done a long time ago, Dregs.
I know.
And that would be my only criticism. However, it is, the point now. And so they get Alex Tuck. They got to wait for him for shoulder surgery anyway. Mm-hmm. I like that they put Krebs in the American Hockey League because if they didn't, if they didn't, though, Dregs, everybody's evaluating.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what they got for Jack Eichel. I mean, he's a 20-year-old kid. He's just getting going. And then they got to wait for the first round pick. And no matter what it is, it's unless they stumble upon, because it's a top 10 protected pick, but unless they stumble upon a David Pastrnak or somebody later in a first round, a Charlie McAvoy, then, the pick's going to be, the opportunity to be a good NHL player.
Yeah. All right, let's go off ice for a moment, and only because the story broke on Tuesday out of Anaheim. The Anaheim Ducks putting Bob Murray, general manager, on leave while an independent investigator goes through all the accusations of how Bob has treated some staff and hockey operations personnel over a span of time, whatever that timeline is. And my understanding, according to source, is that it's text messages, it's conversations, it's emails, certain beration in different environments and all of those things. And I guess why this one elevates, aside from the obvious of everything I've just said, two things. One, in the statement that the Ducks provide, they acknowledge that they first did an internal investigation. The Ducks group, which would include ownership, did this, recognized that there was enough there that it had to go external, and it's being managed externally. And then number two, Ray, and this is what jumped off that page for me, and they didn't connect it to Commissioner Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley's media availability several days ago. But it connected in my head because something those two guys said, Daley and Bettman, was when they fined the Chicago Blackhawks, which we'll get to in the next story, the $2 million, it was to deliver a message to all owners, all clubs across the league. You see anything inappropriate or anyone in your organization sees it, it needs to get reported, right? I feel like that empowered somebody, or maybe more than one person in Anaheim, to come forward to say, here's my experience or our experience. And it's too bad, but if Bob Murray is mistreating his staff, then Bob Murray needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, the part where they said they had, done an internal look and then brought in the outside firm, that's concerning. If you're Bob Murray, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's concerning. They obviously have some information that says, hey, we've got to investigate this deeper.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned Chicago, so let's go there, and then we'll go back at some other NHL clubs before we wrap up headlines. Jeremy Colleton fired as head coach. Not a surprise. As I've said on radio, there were whispers of this last season into the offseason. I guess the timing, given everything that the Blackhawks are dealing with, both on ice and off ice, could be challenged a little bit. But is there any way that Kyle Davidson, the interim general manager, makes a call like this without being pushed by ownership or having probably more than one conversation with Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane and the leadership of the Chicago Blackhawks?
Okay, the interim coach, I always understand. The interim general manager, I always wonder what's the scope of what he's allowed to do on his own, if that's the correct term. But I don't think a general manager goes ahead and fires a coach, even if he's the full-time GM, without discussing with ownership. Like you got to discuss it with your superior, mainly because there's going to be some financial implication to that. You can't just say, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be paying 6 coaches here to do 2 guys' jobs, right? So I assume there was discussions had. Now, I was in Chicago for their home opener. They started on the road. They came home. And it already had the feel like this was going to be, the eventual outcome. Mm-hmm. There was almost a detachment, I felt, when we talked to Jeremy Colleton prior to the game. He just looked it felt like he was exasperated. Yeah. And the players get a whiff of that, and then you just have to make a change. Now, I played with Derek King with the Islanders, Super funny guy, quietly funny. Never the loudest guy in the room, often one of the funniest guys in the room.
Well, he did say he wants to keep it light too, right?
That'll
To
be
relieve some
impossible for him not to do. Like there's just something about Kinger. He's one of those guys you meet him and you start to laugh. Like the way he presents just about everything.
Yeah.
He's never in a hurry. I think as far as interim coaches go, his personality is about right. Because he's not going to get rattled. He's not going to come in and scream and yell, and he's going to try and take the temperature down.
Right.
And then I don't know how good the Blackhawks are, but they're not one win in 12 games.
No, they should.
And so they should be better than that. And, he's got a couple of overtime wins, Alex DeBrincat, one shootout, one overtime, DeBrincat with the winner in both games. And so slowly they turn the page into whatever the future might be in Chicago.
All right. Atlantic Division. Help me understand what's going on here with two teams. Florida off to a tremendous start. I mean, they lead the division handily, I would say. But then you look at the division and you see the Detroit Red Wings.
Sure.
Neck and neck with Tampa Bay, but technically in second place as we record the podcast in the Atlantic Division. So, Florida takes it on the chin in a 7-3 loss to the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday night. But again, that's just a blip in what we've seen from a team that has otherwise been stellar to start this year.
Yeah, so I'll start at the back, Dregs. I mean, like I did the opener, Tampa Bay. They hosted Pittsburgh. And we were talking to John Cooper before the game, Tampa's coach, and he said, we were asking him about good teams and stuff. He said, Florida's really good. Florida's got a good team. And so, of course, they had a good year last year. They've had to change coaches with Joel Quenneville out, and my buddy Andrew Burnett is in there. So he's just been in there about 10 days or so. But a couple of things. They got Aaron Ekblad back from injury, which was a huge loss for them last year. Sergei Bobrovsky's got it like close to a .950 save percentage.
Yeah.
Which he had not even come close to playing at that level prior. But where they get it done is offensively. I mean, like this team can score. We know Barkov, we know Huberdeau. What about Anthony Duclair?
Yeah.
I thought a couple of years ago when Duclair was a free agent and he decided to be his own agent, I'm like, man, what a mistake. Like, what is this guy doing? And he lands in Florida, and it's like he I don't know. He's just like the promise he showed back in junior. It's like he's found the confidence to play that way. Yeah. He's really, really dynamic. But they got 7 guys with 10 or more points. They can score. Detroit did not see this coming. Couple of rookies really have been terrific for him. Lucas Raymond's got 6 goals.
So good.
Man, Mo Seider, he's a monster. He's a beast back there. He's got the same physical profile as Aaron Ekblad. Mm-hmm. He's got that same skating style, that same size. He's a better skater, more agile. Seider's your number one defenseman. And so both Raymond and Seider, the Wings got it around number 6 or so in the draft. And so that's pretty great work. Nedeljkovic, they get him in goal from Carolina. He's about .915 save percentage, right? So yeah. And then I guess, I mean, we'd be stupid to overlook, one of their major contributors is Tyler Bertuzzi. He's got 9 goals in 11 games. And yeah, he pissed some people off early in the year with his vaccination status. And that's an ongoing thing. But man, he's got 9 goals in 11 games.
Yeah. Let's wrap up headlines with Montreal. And there's so many ways we can go with Montreal.
No, there's not. There's only one way.
And that is?
South.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 16th. You don't.
No.
You have a team. Last year was a mirage. It was not. That was not sustainable.
But we didn't feel that last year, did we?
Who didn't?
You and I, we thought that this team was maybe not going to the Stanley Cup final.
No, I thought
it was legit.
Yes, they're okay. So certainly you can't take Carey Price and Shea Weber and Phil Deneau out of that lineup. So one of their most important players in every position, every key position. Wingers you can find all over the place. You can't find centermen. You can't find defensemen. You can't find goalies. So they've got their the top end of their lineup. That's the spine of your team. It's all gone. They don't score. They got 20 goals in, I think, 11 games or what is it? 11 games. Yeah, they got a minus 20 goal differential. Minus 20.
Yeah,
that's Thrasher like.
Let's not take it that far, Ray.
Well, minus 20. They're only a dozen games into the year. That's hard to do.
So like you smelling rebuild here? That sounds drastic, but the media are starting to preach that, and the fan base is going, okay, here we go.
Okay, this is why. This is why I say it's a problem, Dregs. What are they? What can they be?
I don't know.
They can only be what they were last year. They're not all of a sudden going to get, crazy offensive production and change the look of their team. Now, they sent Cole Caulfield down to the American League. He'll get his game back in order there. High expectation, just kind of fell on his backside here to start. But Cole Caulfield will score in the NHL. But sure, which young guys are you looking at that you're going, like they're going to start to score?
Yeah.
You're just like, where are they going to score? It's Suzuki.
Yeah.
And then what? Brendan Gallagher is, he's going to grind away and punch and claw and scratch and get 23 to 27 goals, something in there. But they don't. Who are the other 30 goal guys? Where's their power play? It's painful to watch that power play. Painful. Like where's the answer coming? I mean, I'm happy for Carey Price that he's completed his stint in the players assistant program, but it's a long road back. Right. And as he alluded to in his statement, man, that's a long road back personally. It's not like he left there and then everything just disappears. He's still got to work through some things. And, I think, we all wish him the best, but it's not a short road for Carey either.
No, and there's pressure now on ownership too, right? I mean, you got Marc Bergevin, who is a lame duck general manager.
Right.
On again, off again negotiations. Both sides have said they're not talking about again in season. So if you're ownership, do you just allow Berge to go the direction that he wants to go without a contract? Or are you kind of looking over his shoulder every step of the way? He's not going to like that.
Well, Dregs, I mean, this is exactly the scenario in Chicago, albeit different titles.
Right.
Kyle Davidson, is he the new general manager or is he the general manager today? Well, when they do hire a president of hockey operations, now Davidson probably will get or should get an interview. Where that interview leads, I don't know, but how much autonomy would he have given you don't know what the future is? And of course, Mark's got a longer resume and he is the general manager, but if you sense that he's not coming back, how can you let him make, altering decisions to your roster, to your organizational future, if you don't believe he's your general manager coming back? And so that last year GM, way more interesting and important to me than a last year coach. What's the coach going to do? Coach to lose? No, he's going to coach to win.
For sure.
He wants his job. And you can't have a general manager in the last year of their deal making trades that sacrifice everything for the future because he's like, man, I better make this team better for today. Who the hell cares about 3 years from now? You can't have guys like that in charge. And I don't know. Jeff Molson and Marc Bergevin, they got to figure that out.
Headlines brought to you by our good pals at Boston Pizza. Hey, how about the class of 2020 Hall of Fame? Let's start with the builder, Ken Holland. 4 Stanley Cups with Detroit. I always forget the one that he won as an assistant GM. 4 Stanley Cups. The player category, spectacular. Marian Hossa, Jerome McGinley, Kim St. Pierre, Doug Wilson, and, of course, Kevin Lowe, who's going to join us here on the podcast. Our interview on Ray Dregs brought to you by our good pals at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Try a refreshing CC ginger ale with lime next time you're having a drink. or watching the game. All right, we're now joined by Kevin Lowe, and Kevin, COVID-19 delayed the class of 2020's induction weekend, but that just means you've had an extra year to celebrate privately or with those that, former teammates and such that you can keep close. But what are you most looking forward to now as you look forward to the weekend?
Oh, I keep hearing from everyone. I've been to the Hall of Fame ceremonies a bunch of times, but of course it's different when you're sitting in the audience. But
yeah,
from all my former Oiler Hall of Famers have told me to, be prepared. It's a pretty emotional time. I guess I'm fortunate because I'm just, on the heels of the banner raising in Edmonton. So that had a little bit of emotion there. So I'm dulled down a little bit, but just a lot of some old family friends I haven't seen for a lot of years or instrumental in my early days. Dregs, and just to see, it's been a couple of years, right, with the pandemic, so no Hall of Fame. Typically it's a nice gathering place for people in the hockey world, so looking forward to the weekend.
Everybody that gets inducted say one of the most nerve-wracking parts of this thing is to get your speech together. You've had 2 years. How many speeches have you written?
Oh, I wish I could say lots. I'm the classic procrastinator, Ray, and I always do my best. I always do my best work on deadlines. I've spoken a lot in recent years when I've been, primarily on the business side with the Oilers. So, but it's inevitable. I'm a day out and I'm cramming away to get my speech done. This one I've done a little bit earlier, but I really didn't start till, I went over to visit my son Keegan. My wife and I, Karen, went over to visit. Keegan's playing in the Austrian League this year for Bolzano. And so we just got back. So I did a little bit on the way over and a little bit on the way back and been just fine tuning it this week.
Well, if you're not that you're nervous, you'll wheeze through this, but we get up there, Cammie's inducted in her induction. And she turns to me right before she goes up on stage and she says, do you have the first page of my speech? And I'm like, why would I have the first page? Somewhere, we had our little guy. She was trying to get him settled down. Somewhere she'd lost the first page. So her speech is amazing. The fact that she lost it, literally lost it. I don't know how the hell she did it. So hopefully you got yours written down where you're not going to lose it. Yeah.
No, and they give you the option for the teleprompter as well. So I'll have both. But Mac T was introducing me at the banner. Craig McTavish said is at the banner raising, and I mean he knocked it out of the park. He's such a good writer, and anyhow, he was dropping papers right and left, and he didn't miss a beat. It's like he had the speech memorized, and his sheets were just just there for for a prop kind of thing. It was quite hilarious.
Now, Kevin, you had just an amazing career. We played together for just a short time in New York. Once you retired, there became this, it almost seemed like an ongoing conversation around, is Kevin going to get elected this year? Is it going to be this year? Was it disappointing? Did you kind of put it to the side? Like every year your name came up in the conversation and then you had to wait. And now you don't have to wait anymore.
Yeah. No, in the early days, so 3 years post-retirement is when you're eligible, unless you're, Wayne Gretzky or, Mary Lemieux and the likes. But, so you're right. For a bunch of years there, I would be on a list of players and, never in the top echelon as a slam dunk, and obviously debate and discussion. And it didn't happen. And meanwhile, I was a general manager in the NHL, so I didn't have a lot of time to worry about the Hall of Fame, quite honestly. I tried to figure out to win hockey games on a shoestring budget, pre-cap era. And then as the years rolled on, quite frankly, the luxury of winning 6 Stanley Cups and, all the memories with at that time as well, working with Hockey Canada, the 4 Olympics, all that stuff. It really, being in the game, it didn't really phase me that I wasn't. And then it got to a point in time where I said, well, it's too far along. And that's okay. Again, never really saw myself as a Hall of Famer. To me, the Hall of Fame is, or Howe, Beliveau, Gretzky, Messier, Lemieux, those kinds of guys, not a guy like me. So anyhow, yeah, it was just nice that people talked about it once in a while. I was completely shocked when I got the call from Lanny McDonald, I guess 2 Junes ago now. And I was actually cutting my lawn in Edmonton and saw Lanny was calling and thought he was just phoning to say hi, and he had kind of had he had a funny tone to him. And I thought, and I knew it was Hall of Fame selection week. And I thought, holy shit, I think he's phoning me about the Hall of Fame. I can't believe it. Good memories.
When you broke in, Kevin, I mean, that's just so cool that you get to experience this. But when you broke in, you guys were all so young and you were all came at the same time or, shortly, year here, year there. How quick did you know that it was special?
Yeah, it took a little while. Well, so 3 years to your point, in 3 successive drafts, the Oilers drafted Anderson, Messier, and myself in the first draft. Coffey, Curry, I believe, in the second draft, and then Fuhr, Tikkanen, and I think Steve Smith, who came on later. Yeah. But so they and Andy Moog was in there actually as well. So the foundation of the team in 3 drafts. We made the playoffs first year. 21 teams, 16 teams make it. Not a real big feat, but we had a good playoff series with the Flyers. I remember Bobby Clark talking about Wayne after the series, saying, of course, this guy he's the future of the league, but look out for this Messier. I think he's going to be good too. So a little foreshadowing there. They're both 18 going on 19. They probably turned 19 that season. And then we knocked off the Montreal Canadiens at the next playoff year, 3 straight in the first round. And that was that. I mean, we still didn't know. I mean, Andy Moog stood on his head, but Coff was emerging and Yari was emerging as Mess. And then into the next year, as we finished 14th, I think, the year we beat the Canadiens overall, and then we went to 2nd overall. So then it started to become real.
Now your game, I mean, you were a high scoring guy in junior, and then you come to Edmonton, and did somebody push you along to what you became, or did you go, wait a minute, this is what I need to be?
Yeah, pretty much that. You figure out. I had offensive stats in junior, but I was a 2-way defenseman. That's what they called me. I mean, I like to jump up to the play and rush the puck a little bit, but I wasn't particularly gifted. I mean, in those days, everybody scored points in junior hockey. And then, of course, Paul Coffey comes along. And right. He and I played, we actually only played 1 game ever, I think, started together. And that was a bit of a disaster. It was Coff's first year and my second year. And, you remember those, the coaches are kind of, they're on our ass a bit. And so we go out, we see this as a great opportunity. Hey, we could gel and be partners for decades, together. And we went out and we had an atrocious first period. It was just a disaster. And we're shocked that they put us out there again in the second period. And then we had a dream second period. And we're kind of, Coff and I were sitting beside each other in dressing rooms. Yeah, now they know, now they know what we can do. They should have been doing this before, and then we went out and just stunk the rink out in the third period again. We never did play again, but more importantly that year, and that was the year we beat the Montreal Canadiens, that's when Coff really started to take off in the second half of the year. And it was really simple. He just didn't come off the ice for the power play, so I never got back out there.
That'll fix that.
That'll get that done. Hey, Kevin, let's expand on the early days a little bit prior to the National Hockey League. And I'm sure we'll hear more of these stories as the Hall of Fame week progresses. But born in Southwest Quebec, I mean, how are you introduced to hockey? And one of your notable qualities is that fiery competitiveness, right? So where does that come from?
Yeah, I guess, well, my family, Dregs, I actually got a picture behind here. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah.
But this jacket. So that jacket's from 1962. And in the picture, what you can't see is my father's a coach and my godfather's a co-coach, I guess. And I have 6 cousins on the team. They're all they're all 10 years older than I am, and I'm the little guy in the middle. I'm the stick boy. So I grew up in a hockey family, to say the least. Our family's business, my dad's business, we had a dairy business. We didn't grow up on a farm. We produced milk and ice cream, and my dad and his brothers, along with the Lions Club, made the first public skating rink in Lachute, and it happened to be right on our property where the business is, and it was a 2-minute walk to it. So I was the 3rd youngest of my generation of 36, and all the boys played hockey. The girls didn't so much then; they skied, etc. But so I had, it was there for me, and the fire, I guess. Although we didn't grow up on a farm, I'd say that we're sort of the Quebec version of the Sutters. It was when the Lowe's teams were playing, there was inevitably that there was, if they didn't win the game, there was going to be something going on during the game or at the end of the game, and I got caught up in that vortex.
Today's rule is rule of the year is the cross check. What would your penalty totals have looked like if Kevin Lowe was coming in today?
Yeah, Bob.
You were a good slasher, by the way, a very good slasher.
I don't remember that. Everybody tells me that, but I thought it was like the serpent's tongue with a stick. I was trying stick on puck, but once in a while it'd be guys' ankles. I don't know. I asked myself that question, even how I'd play today. I think I really like the fact that goaltenders move the puck better. So you get some options where you can. I mean, I like to think that I moved the puck pretty well. I wasn't again a good, gifted offensive guy, but I got to always find the open areas. I like the fact that you defend in front of the opposition now. I mean, in those days we tried to push out the likes of Paul Holmgren and Clark Gillies and Terry O'Reilly. I mean, like, that was ridiculous. I got a picture of myself. I'm literally wrapped around Rick Tocchet in front of our net and, not taking a penalty, trying to pull him from the front of the net so he can see the puck. So nowadays you stand in front. I was a good shot blocker, so I'd probably adapt to today's game. The cross checks are a different story. But yeah, I mean, I love watching the game. It's so fast now. And we're blessed with McDavid and Draisaitl here in Edmonton. So it's fun to watch the games.
So many stories about your crew in Edmonton. You guys were the best team, the most fun team. Of the ones you can talk about, is there anything that happened like during a game, or, I mean, there's a million, I'm sure, but something that kind of pops out at you that people might not have heard so much that they'd get a laugh at? Because you guys seem to be able to play like just as hard as you needed to play on that night. I tell this story. We came in there with Hartford one time. We were miles from you guys and we're down 3-0. We get a couple of goals. It's 3-2. You guys get 3 more. It's 6-2. We get a couple. It's 6-4. You guys get 2 late ones. It's 8-4. We get a late one. It looks good. 8-5. We were never in the game. It's like you guys were like, hey, somebody, would you get a couple? And that's what it felt like playing you guys all the time.
Well, not every night, but a lot of those nights, especially in that early part of when, Gretz was 200 points plus per season. I don't know. I mean, some of the things, we were really a loose bunch. I mean, encouraged by Glenn. I mean, we were serious professionals, but we also, and maybe it came hand in hand with winning so much that, we always had a loose dressing room. I mean, we would be joking and kibitzing, minutes before the game. And some of the biggest games, guys are taking shots at one another. Paul Coffey, I mean, he got to a point where he was so good. I know Lanny McDonald said Calgary had a rule. If you didn't get Paul Coffey before 10 feet from the Oilers' net, then just back up because you weren't going to get him. And to that point, he would come around. If he got around the net and the guy was behind him, sometimes he'd turn around and look at that guy and actually, while he's skating, say, "You're never going to catch me," stuff like that. Or he'd say to Furzy, "Look at this guy trying to catch me," within the game. Wow. And I mean, Coff was. I got a lot of stories about Coff because obviously were down at the same end of the bench, but my dear friend and first ever defense partner, Lee Fogland, was, we're so all indebted to Fogy for his leadership in those years. He was a great professional and a great leader, gave up his captaincy to Wayne Gretzky because he knew it was time. And Fogy is a real serious guy. So every once in a while, when in one of those games when it's 8-4, like you're talking about against Hartford, Fogy, his shoulders were too bad. He couldn't jump over the boards. He had to go through the door. So every once in a while, Coff would grab on the back of his sweater when he's trying to get on the ice, and he wouldn't be letting him on the ice as the game's going on. And Fogy'd be like, hit Coff and laughing our rear ends off. It's 8-4. You can kind of do those things.
So good.
So you go from being a player, assistant coach to general manager, Kevin, to president of the Edmonton Oilers. And now you're the vice chair of the Oilers Entertainment Group. I mean, where you're at in your life, is that giving you a good balance where you've got the hockey is part of it, the business side is part of it, the community element is there. So in terms of the cycle of a professional life, you appear to be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I'm in a great spot right now. I'm really fortunate. I do zero on the hockey side, and that's been a number of years. I've helped pre-pandemic on the business side as much as I can, mostly as an ambassador, but sit in the executive meetings and get a full understanding of what the P&L of the OEG looks like, and so on and so forth. I've been here for so many years. I then can go out within the community and speak the gospel, I guess, so to speak. But relative, vice chair is a fancy title. I was going to the NHL Board of Governors meetings. I haven't been for a while because of the pandemic. And I just like where I am right now. We have one grandchild. We have another one on the way.
Awesome.
I'm just, I can get to go to the games. I live 1 minute walk from Rogers Place. So I'm just in a good place personally, and 62, counting how many summers I have left, and just really want to enjoy what's going on to this date in my career.
It has been an amazing hockey life for you. You're going to have a bunch of people, I would assume, family and friends into Toronto for the Hall of Fame. You just had the jersey retirement ceremony. When you talk of emotion earlier, is there someone you're going to see that you haven't seen in a while that you're really looking forward to in Toronto? I assume it'll be an awesome weekend.
Yeah, just a collection of, we were in New York for 4 years, and we made some great friends there. Some of them are coming in. I have most of my cousins are in the eastern part of Canada. I mean, I live full time in Edmonton and at our summer place on the Shuswap Lake in beautiful interior British Columbia. And so don't get east that much anymore, but a few cousins. So my father passed away when I was 13 years old, just about a month after the Summit Series in 1972. And my brother Kenny was 5 years older than me, so he was 18 at college. I had an older cousin that my dad had coached and had been working for my dad. And he's going to be there with his younger brother, who's kind of in between us age-wise. And those guys and my brother were instrumental in my hockey career after my dad had passed away. This cousin Carmen Lowe played at St. FX in the East Coast, St. FX University. They had a good hockey program back then. U of T and U of A were the top university teams in Canada, and he was highly scouted. He had Bobby Orr's knees before Bobby Orr had his knees. So his career ended. He came back and took his university degree and worked for my dad, and then obviously took over that when my dad passed away. But more importantly, took over the hockey. And I've been doing a lot of thinking in the last month or two leading up to this. And I phoned him and I said, so he was coaching the midget team. I was a first year Bantam, but he would bring me to practice with the midgets, and then he'd bring me to tournaments with the midgets. And I said to him, obviously that was a big part of my development. I got an opportunity to play. I got great coaching, because the coaching was not great. But with him, it was because he came from a university program, structurally, all those things. But, and so I said to him, I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, first of all, because you were good. He said, I took some grief, from Lachute minor hockey for doing it. But I'd tell him, I said, Kevin's better than half the guys on the midget team. But also, he wanted to keep me busy. My dad had passed away, and he wanted to, keep me occupied. Not that I was a mischievous kid. So he's one, and he never did play pro hockey because of his knees. And then another brother that played junior just prior to me in the Quebec League, he really helped me sort of, get orientated to the Quebec Junior League, what to expect. And, your first time you're going to camp, should you fight? Should you not fight? Those kinds of things. And then he played in the coast for a couple of years, and then, went on to work. So, and then of course, my brother Kenny, those are all the years of my brother, not only being with us, but even prior to that, he was with the Edmonton Eskimos, living in Edmonton here, prior to, joining with the Oilers. And, from a hockey standpoint, in my earliest days, those guys are the three main people responsible. It's going to be nice I see my brother, he's here in Edmonton, but really looking forward to spending time with those guys and giving them their sort of just reward.
Right.
No kidding. And isn't that what Hall of Fame weekend is so much about? So look, Kevin, we appreciate being flexible with us here on the Ray Dregs podcast, for taking the time, and enjoy every second of it, because not only Oilers fans, but hockey fans around the world know that your induction is richly deserved. So congratulations.
Thanks, Dregs. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Ray, nice to see you again.
Yeah, congratulations. Just enjoy the weekend. It'll be great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Coolbet Chris Abbott from Coolbet.co now stops by in the Ray Dregs Hockey Podcast. And Chris, last week we talked about October being barely break even for some of the sports books, right? Now, conversely, if you look back to this past weekend, and specifically Sunday, man, that had to be the most profitable day in Canadian sports book history, or at least right up there. Fair?
Well, for us, it was
Nice.
The single best day that Coolbet ever had from a profit perspective. Anyone out there who bets on the NFL knows how crazy it was. Like, the Dallas Cowboys were a 10-point favorite. People probably teased them down to 3 or 4 points just to make sure, that they got the win. And then you're watching and they're down 30 with a bagel on the board in the fourth quarter. It's like, what? How did this happen? Yeah, so just a great day for the sports books. I think in the early window, underdogs went 6-2 against the spread. They won a lot of those games outright. I don't know the number on the second window because I went to bed. I was upset.
I could tell.
But I had bet on the Cardinals and I had bet on the Packers to cover, so that was good. But even that, the Packers shouldn't be covering with a rookie quarterback in KC against this team, and for Patrick Mahomes' offense to only put up 13 points, it's wild. But I'm glad to know it wasn't just me. All over the industry, people were shaking their heads, and it was a topsy-turvy NFL Sunday. And now the thing is not to get sucked in by those results, those anomalies in the coming week. You should actually probably get some better spreads than you normally would. So it might be a good week to bet favorites. But hey, what do I know? No.
Is there any word in gambling more apt than the teaser? You move that point line around and you're like, this is a lock. There's no way I can. And then you always get kicked right in the junk for one of the games, it seems, but you win just enough that you're like, yeah, I'm going to chase this again next week, 3 weeks down the line. It did it all the time.
Oh, well, I did it Monday night for the Bears Steelers game. I'm like, well, the Steelers have a really good defense. The Bears offense can't get it done. Ben Roethlisberger's old. The Bears have some good players on defense. I'm like, so if I tease that total up and then give myself more points with the Bears, I should be fine. And at halftime it was. And then, of course, in the third and fourth quarter, there's points everywhere. There's referees throwing the body out there.
What the hell was that guy doing?
I don't know. I mean,
it's insane.
You guys know, a lot of people will always, it's rigged. Oh, the referees, and normally, I mean, the referees are human. All these sports are played at an insanely high pace. Like I use the MLB umpires for an example. You're like, how did he miss that? And then they slow it down where they show two pitches from the same pitcher, on the same overlay, and one ball goes this way, one ball goes that way.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I see how they can miss that. But anyway, yeah, that was really weird. Like he put his body into the guy. And I mean, it's a football field. Like there's literally
Right.
lots of room. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's a bad look, real bad look.
What have been some of the most and least profitable teams in the NHL? I mean, there's been some crazy starts. I can't imagine people had Detroit coming out of the gate like they would, or, I don't know. Did everybody think Arizona was going to lose 10 in a row? There's got to be some good and bad to it.
Yeah, maybe I think people saw Arizona not having a great year. But the way that we kind of measure NHL betting is if you bet $100 on every team, every game, where would you be, right? Okay. So Arizona, Montreal, it's not surprising that you wouldn't be looking very good if you bet $100 on every one of their games. Where it gets a little interesting is the teams that, you think are really good and really profitable, but maybe their money line price is kind of prohibitive, like, in the minus 250 range or something like that. Like the Leafs were at home to LA the other night. Now they didn't even win that game. So, that would be another $100 loss. But even if you did, your profit on that game would be, $30. So it's quite interesting. So some of the more profitable teams, Carolina, don't know that we're shocked by that. Columbus, though, is one that really surprises me. If you bet $100 on every Columbus game, you'd be up $521 right now. And I mean, I know they're 7-3, and I guess maybe people just didn't necessarily see that coming. St. Louis has been a profitable team to bet on. Minnesota has been a profitable team. Edmonton, obviously. And the two that are most surprising, I think, like I just mentioned, the Kings, you'd be up $262, and San Jose, you'd be up $419 if you bet $100 on every Sharks game.
All right. Well, where are you with the Leafs then, right? I mean, they stumbled out of the gate on a roll recently, and then they get smacked around by the Los Angeles Kings. So lots of Leafs fans put money down. They're probably not making a bunch at this stage.
They're not. If you bet 100 on every Leafs game, you'd be up $236. If you bet 100 on all their home games where they've had some success recently, you'd be up $19. So, that's one where they're super overvalued on the money line. We talk about it all the time. They're overvalued on the Stanley Cup futures line. Yeah. They played, I was at the game against Boston Saturday night. They looked really good. But, Ray tossed out a gambling term in teaser. Another one is letdown spot. And I know you guys talk about it as just, analysts as well. But, you have this emotional win over your rival at home. You play great. Everybody loves you. The LA Kings come in, they're in a different conference. It's a Monday night. And you let up a little bit. And they're ready to go because they're playing in the Mecca. And before you know it, it's 3-1. And people were cashing LA. I got them like 2.5 to 1 as underdogs. I was real happy about that.
No kidding. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining us again. Have a great week, and look forward to visiting with you in episode 8.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Thanks so much.
See you, Chris.
Ask Ray Dregs anything, presented by Endy.ca. Endy, the 2021 winner of the best mattress in Canada. Ray Z Tobby on Instagram is asking, which goalie did you always look forward to playing against? And which goalie always seemed to have your number?
The goalies I like playing against best played on really bad teams because you got lots of chances. That was always very important. I did like playing against Patrick Waugh, which of course is a
I knew you were going to say that.
I loved scoring on that guy. I loved it.
Just because he was such a big deal. He was so great, right?
So great. And I felt like, I don't know, it felt like it stung him more than other guys. and I don't know. I loved playing Montreal. We were in same division. We played them 8 times a year.
Yeah.
I just loved scoring on Waugh. I loved it. As far as goalies that had my number, like probably 98% of the shooters, for the life of me, I could never figure out what the hell Dominik Hasek was doing in that. You'd get a chance and all of a sudden he'd be on his side and you're like, what the hell is he doing? And then there's no net.
His style is no style.
Oh man, he was hard. He was hard.
All right. Mr. Westy7 on Instagram asking, are the Calgary Flames in the same boat as the Toronto Maple Leafs in that the current group has to find a way to make it work or it's not going to work?
Yeah, for sure. Because of the length of time that roster's been together. Like there feels, I don't know, Dregs, do you feel like there's an immediacy?
For sure there is.
To that roster. And man, like last night they lost against San Jose. They totally dominated the game. Mm-hmm. It was for the first two periods. So after the second period, they had like 19 shots in the period. They hit the post twice and they're tied 1-1. They lost their game for about 5 or 7 minutes at the start of the third. And they couldn't get it back. So they lose. But they had points in 10 straight games. Goudreau looks terrific. Elias Lindholm is a fantastic player. Tkachuk was on a roll until last night. How about Milan Lucic has got 5 goals?
I know.
And
it just keeps going.
I don't know what it is, but you have to, you have to acknowledge that the Jolly Rancher, he can coach.
No doubt about that.
And I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like there's any great speeches or anything. I do get a chuckle out of when he does his press availability and he's got his Flames hat on. He always wears the trucker Flames hat. Like it looks just perfect. It's always a little back on his head, like he's on the ranch.
Look, I'm not going to compare Daryl Sutter to Al Arbor, but again, just based on experience, and I know the respect that you and your teammates have for Al Arbor, right? Could it be part of that? Like, it's almost like your dad. You don't want to disappoint your dad. He pisses you off. You might get into a squabble every once in a while, but at the end of the day, you want to play well for him.
You know, yes. I was thinking about Johnny Gaudreau, who looks as good as he's looked in a number of years. Now, last year, when Daryl took over, it didn't go very well. And so my thought is that warm-up season of last year made everybody aware of what was going to be when they came to camp.
Yeah.
Now, you can't overlook Jacob Markstrom either, who is playing like the guy they thought they signed. From Vancouver. He struggled last year. This year he's got 4 shutouts already. You know, he's been fantastic, but the Flames don't give up a lot of shots. They look like they'd be a bear to play against. That's a good team.
Suzanne on Twitter is asking, do you think the NHL will ever go with a soft salary cap? And her thinking is it would definitely bring in more hockey related revenue and maybe that franchise player, something along those lines. I don't think it happens with Gary Bettman as commissioner.
That was just going to be my point, Dregs. I think we will get to that. I don't think it'll be with Gary Bettman as commissioner because that's almost seems to be like a no-go zone. So whether it's a soft cap or whether they designate a player per roster, which my idea without configuring the entire system. If you have a designated player and you could take one salary off your salary cap per year and stick it in this designated player, and then you have as it is now, $81.5 million cap. So if you choose to spend $95 million because you're paying one guy $14 million, that's up to you.
Right.
Then you've got $81.5 million in your cap. I do think that is something that the bigger owners will push for eventually. And here's the thing: say you don't want to do it. Say you're an owner and you're like, you know what? I don't want to have a $90 million cap. Then don't put anybody in. Yeah. On the designated player stuff.
I like it. We've talked about this before. It's a good question. All right. Final one is from Ben C's Trees on Instagram. And Ben is going to ask us to take an educated guess at this. All right.
That's a tough one.
Well, yeah. Which team do you think is most likely to draft Conor Bedard first overall in the 2023 NHL draft? I'm going to beat you to the punch. I'm going to say Arizona.
Oh, it's probably a decent choice. Jeez, man, that kid is good.
He
Well,
is
he's
so
from Vancouver, North Vancouver. My son Landon, who's 30, is playing in Germany, and I said last summer they're skating, and Connor says to him on the bench, in the summer, geez, your shot is heavy. Mine's not heavy yet, or not yet. He says, my shot's not heavy. It doesn't have that same zip. And Landon said he looked at him. He's like, Connor, you're 15. He's like, it will become, he said, he can do things on the ice that you just can't believe. I would say Arizona does have they've got the running inside track, don't they?
It looks that way. And by design too, obviously, right? So I can't think of another team. And there could be teams that fail.
I got a question for you, Dregs. Ask Ray and Dregs anything.
What's that?
Where's Arizona playing next year?
Ooh, that's a good question. Obviously, because of their lease issues. Yep. And it's a good thing, but that story is pretty quiet in terms of, are they going to acquire land? Are they going to partner with somebody? Are they going to build? And if they're building, you obviously don't get to do that in a year. So, you know what? I haven't checked in on that. So would you get on that, please? 8.
Get on that. Would you chop? Yeah, get on it. Chop.
All right. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. Presented by Endy.ca. Hey, check out Ray and Dregs' social channels for Rapid Fire. Presented by Netcoins.ca. Crypto made easy. A little later this week, we'll have Kevin Lowe taking part in Rapid Fire, whether he knows this or not. Not sure how Lowe's he's going to manage it, but we'll fire a couple of bullets his way and see what happens. What's going on for the rest of the weekend, next week, before episode 8? What's it look like?
I'm actually heading to Toronto. I've got the Hall of Fame game Friday, which is always one of my favorite games to do. And then I'm in Toronto for the weekend, and then I got a couple of games next week. I think Nashville and the Rangers, and then on the Friday I'm in Seattle again.
Nice.
For Colorado, which I'm looking forward to seeing. And busy 10 days, but good 10 days.
It is a good 10 days. And you know what? The holiday season is quickly approaching. So you know what that means. We're going to have to lean on some of our people to give us ideas, to get us thinking, because you travel so much. I'm busy. There's no excuses. It's almost mid-November, Ray. We have lots of time, but we have to start thinking about these things. You
mean about what to get our wives?
Christmas, yeah. That's usually,
You know what? Cammie's been talking about a new set of pans.
Nothing says I love you like a big bag of Lagostino. Well, you go with that.
I'll probably not.
All right, a huge shout out to our partners who make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, of course, Infinity. Thank you. Visit Infinity.ca. You can book your contactless test drive. Coolbet.co. It is the free-to-play sports and casino games website by our friends at Canadian Club, who are asking, are you over beer? By Endy.ca. Remember to use code RD75 to save $75 on a mattress. And by Boston Pizza. Their fall menu is here for a limited time, featuring past faves and new craves, including what we talked about earlier, the pickled pizza. And a special thank you to you, of course, for continuing to listen, rating, sharing, following us on whatever podcast platform you choose, and for following us on your YouTube channel as well. Thanks for joining us here in episode 7, and we'll see you again, episode 8.